Buy now, pay later. A modern take on an old concept. Stay tuned to learn more. Hello and welcome to Headlines in Fine Print with Dion Williams, President and CEO of Piedmont Advantage Credit Union. Today we're going to take a look at buy now, pay later plans. Just as a reminder before we get into today's content, we have the show archived on our YouTube and Spotify channels if you'd like to learn more or listen to past episodes. Also, I'd like to invite you to follow our channels, like them, and share them if you're so inclined. So with no further ado, let's jump into buy now, pay later. Buy now, pay later is a new take on an old concept of layaway plans, is the way that I like to look at it. And I really like to think about this really in the context of holidays, although buy now, pay later applies year-round for many different examples. But for the purposes of our discussion today, let's say that under the old layaway plans, if you're going to get a bicycle for the holidays, you would pick it out, they would hold it behind the customer service desk for you, and you would make payments on it until you paid for it in full. Then you could leave with the bicycle. Now, in today's world, we're more into the model of instant gratification where I want it now. So in today's world, you take the bicycle home with you and you make the payments later. So how does buy now, pay later work? And beyond just the general concept of contrasting it to the layaway plans of old. So first of all, this is something I really like about buy now, pay later. It has a shorter horizon than credit cards. So think about the credit card example that if you buy something that doesn't cost a lot, like a meal, for example, and you just do minimum payments, that meal can stay on your card for a long time and accrue interest and is literally years before you pay for it. Now with buy now, pay later, you've got a well-defined repayment horizon, and generally that's 12 months or less. So I do like the fact that when you buy that bicycle, for example, you know it's going to be paid for within a year, and it's not just going to sit out there and linger. Now, the providers of the buy now, pay later plans, they will do a credit check. It's generally a soft credit check, so it doesn't bring down your score, and that's how they can determine if you qualify and how much you qualify for and what your rates and terms are. Your interest rate, it could be zero or it could be a higher amount than that, so that's some fine print that you need to be aware of when you're reviewing a buy now, pay later offer. So with this being headlines in fine print, we talk about, what's some of the good things about the buy now, pay later program, which would be the headlines, but then the fine print would be, what's the catch? Is there a catch? And this is an interesting one because I would say the primary catch with these plans is consumer behavior. And it's our own temptation to overspend, really. You know that if the buy now, pay later provider says you have a credit line of $3,600, does that mean you have to spend $3,600? And that's kind of where they say, well, you qualify for that, but they don't really know your budget like you know your budget. So you're really the best arbiter of that to know exactly what's in your comfort level, what works best for your budget. So again, the temptation to overspend is the first fine print that I'll speak to. So let's use that $3,600 credit line example. It's the holidays, you're out shopping, and you're really excited because you're going through your list, you're getting everything taken care of, but you max out the $3,600. So if you're on a plan that has you paying it off in 12 months, that's $300 a month. So again, $3,600 divided by 12, $300 a month. But you probably weren't thinking about $300 a month when you were making those purchases. The payments of the things you were buying, it may be $50 here, $75 there, maybe $100 for something. So you're thinking, oh, I can afford $50, I can afford $75, I can afford $100. But then when you come home and you look at it and it's like, oh no, it's $300 total, and car payments have gone way up. But I remember a day where $300 was a really good, solid car payment. They've gone up a little bit higher than that. But $300 is a material amount of money that could impact your budget, on a monthly basis. So that's really something to think about and to be aware of if you get onto one of these plans. Now, as I noted before, interest may be charged on a buy now, pay later plan. So again, it's just really important to know how much is the interest and what's the time horizon. There's nothing that stops you from paying these off early, and I would certainly encourage you to do so, especially if there is interest on the plan, because if there's interest on it and you pay it off early, then of course that's less interest that you have to pay. And as this is credit, so don't lose sight of that. This is a credit arrangement. It's just kind of a more modern take on a credit arrangement. So if you miss a payment or you're late for a payment, there could be additional fees incurred. So and certainly if you don't pay back, if you default on the plan, it's very probable that would be reported to a credit reporting agent, to a credit bureau. So again, all the rules of credit apply there, so be sure that you take that seriously, pay it off on time, pay it off early if you can, to avoid as much interest as possible, and you certainly don't want any detrimental impacts to your credit from those plans. Now, I wouldn't feel like I was doing my job if I didn't give you an alternative to these plans. Again, I think there's some definite benefits to buy now, pay later over a traditional credit card, but let me give you an alternative to think about. So going back to the layaway concept, let's talk about the Christmas Club account. So if the holiday spending seasons, when you're doing most of your expenditures on this, on a buy now, pay later type plan, if you set aside money in a Christmas Club account or really any just savings account throughout the year, if it's $25 or $50 every time you're paid, doesn't matter what it is. The money that you have accumulated when you're ready to make your purchase, that's less money that you'll have to borrow from somewhere else when the time comes. And what a great feeling that is if you get to the holiday season and you've already got the money set aside for that and you can just pay cash for it. And some folks use the same concept for vacations. So there's things throughout the year that you can use it for. But I would encourage you from a budgetary standpoint that what's going to put the most money back in your pocket is to set aside money on your own into a club account that's earning interest, and then you've got it there for what you need it for at the end of the year rather than looking to borrowing as the alternative. So let's wrap up today's discussion and briefly review the buy now, pay later concept. And just as an interesting aside, the Global Market Insights estimates the buy now, pay later market to be $235 billion in 2024. So clearly, consumers are utilizing this source of credit. But keep in mind that the headline of convenience and breaking down a large purchase into smaller payments is true, but don't forget the fine print either. And the fine print would be your self-control as a consumer of making sure that you don't overspend and put yourself into a payment deficit by going overboard. And then just keeping in mind the interest and the fees that could be involved over time with such a program. So, and then most recently we talked about using a club account as a way to kind of get ahead of these things, to set aside money on your own and earn interest for yourself so you can use cash for those purchases instead of a borrowing arrangement. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Headlines in Fine Print with Dion Williams. Again, our episodes are archived on Spotify and YouTube, so feel free to like and share and follow if you're so inclined. We have a wealth of resources at the credit union if there's anything you'd like to talk to us about regarding your financial situation. If you have questions about today's show or want to suggest a topic for a future show or interact with me on a past topic that we've had, my email address is dion.williams@pacu.com, and my phone number is 336-750-7088. Thank you so much for listening. We put episodes out each month, so we'll look forward to seeing you next time.